Hey everybody, this is Dr. William Clark here for MBA 610, Leading Organizations and Leading People. I wanted to walk you through the skill gap analysis that you have to complete for this particular course. And I wanted this to be a tutorial of how to complete it. What I've noticed of students who have completed this assignment in the past is that this may have caused some confusion, and my hope is that this particular tutorial video will help you through the process of completing this assignment. Now, all of the assignments that you're going to be completing have a specific purpose in helping you become better in your leadership of people and of organizations. And dare I say yourself, leadership begins with leading self, understanding who you are as a leader, as a person, and how all of that influences your ability to influence other people or lead other people. So, very quickly, let me just walk you through a quick introduction of this particular tool. This particular tutorial that we're going to go through is meant to give you a perspective on how to take and analyze and use this assessment. This will help you determine how to spend your time as you develop your leadership. In addition, this will help you fast track how you complete this assignment and how this assignment impacts and connects with your leadership development plan. Now, very quickly, I do want to draw your attention to column C, column D, and column E. In column C, you will see a number of items that you will be rating yourself on. We have a good number of items for you to complete. But column C is a description of items, and they also have different categories. So if you look at line 124, that focuses on part 3, organizational culture, climate, and ethical decisions. And for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to focus on part 1. If you look at line 5, and that is personal leadership, assessment, goal setting, and implementation. So that's column C. Column D is for you to rate your proficiency in that particular item. So for the quick sample you see here on line 6, I am able to formulate a good long-term career goal. This sample is pre-populated in the template provided to you. The number is 2, and that was entered to give you an example. Now that jumps us to column E. Column E asks the user, in this case you, the student, to rate the importance of this item to your career. And in this case, the sample entered is number 7, which is high. Let me just point this out before we go forward. When you're inserting numbers in column D and column E, the range that you have to choose from is from number 1 to number 7. Nothing lower, nothing higher. Go from 1 to 7 in each column. They don't have to add up to a specific number, but column D should get a number between 1 and 7, and column E should get a number between 1 and 7. Now, to the tool, I want to go through part 1 as a sample, and I'm going to clear out column D5 and column E5 just so we can start from scratch. But I want to go through a scenario so that you can get a sense of how this tool is used. And the scenario I'm going to provide to you is of a student who's taking MBA 610, and this particular student is an emerging leader. An emerging leader is someone who is on the brink of promotion to a leadership role, or who's currently in a leadership role but is continuing to ascend in their role. An emerging leader can be anyone of any life category who's continuously progressing in their career. So the scenario here is an emerging leader, and this emerging leader is preparing for promotion in the next 12 to 18 months. Now, for the sake of this scenario, when I talk about preparing for promotion, there have been some clear indicators provided by supervisors, the tea leaves of the culture that indicates that you are up for promotion and that you need to start preparing yourself to take on that new assignment. Now, in preparation for that promotion, this particular emerging leader met with managers and supervisors and folks who will be making the final decision. And you, as a emerging leader, receive some feedback in terms of things you need to focus on to get better at as you prepare for the promotion. And so now you're taking MBA 610, and this particular tool kind of aligns with the feedback you've gotten. And for the sake of the scenario, the feedback you've gotten asks you to continue to develop as an individual and to develop your own personal leadership. And so this takes us up to part one. So, with that scenario now laid out, I am going to take on the role of the student who is emerging as a leader and has to complete this assignment. So, I'm going to walk through all 28 of these items and complete the ratings scale. So first, I'm going to go through column D, and I'm going to use this scale to indicate my current level of proficiency. Just for the sake of this video, these numbers do not reflect my personal proficiency. So just would like for you just to kind of go through this tutorial with me, just as if I was a student making some honest assessment of myself. So the first item here, line 6, which is column C6, asks, I am able to formulate a good long-term career goal. Now, if I'm an emerging leader, let's assume this is my first promotion to a leadership or management role. While I may have had some goals that, I've articulated personally to friends and family, I may have not set some clear goals that are long term in nature that's specific. So, out of a scale of 1 to 7, I'm going to say I'm a 4. Okay. I am able to analyze my personal knowledge proficiency. Let's say I'm a 5, a little high there. I am able to analyze my personal skill proficiency. Let's put a 7. I take actions to address self identified areas of strengths and weaknesses. Let's put a 6 there. I'm able to formulate goals that meet the SMART criteria to help me address areas of weakness. Let's put a 3 there. As an emerging leader, I think I know what SMART means. And I think I know how to address my weaknesses or my strengths, but I'm not sure. Let's go to column C11, question 6. I monitor, critically analyze, and record my progress in taking actions to achieve my goals. Let's put a 3 there. I'm still learning how to do this. Let's go to C12, question 7. I seek timely support and feedback from others to help track my progress and achieve my goals. Let's put a 6 there because I'm always asking questions of my supervisors. I am now at let's go to cell C15, question 8. I know my areas of personal strength in the workplace. Let's put a 5, be a little modest there. Right now, we're on this section that asks about self awareness. What do I know about myself? Let's go to C16, question 9. I understand how to leverage my strengths to achieve success. Let's put a 7 there. I know the things I need to improve to be an effective leader. Let's put a 2, because one of the things that emerging leaders don't know is what they need to do to get better. Now, you may have in this scenario gotten feedback from managers and supervisors to tell you what you need to do. And I just want to put a marker here. Even though supervisors and managers, mentors, coaches can tell you what you need to do to get better, the reality is until you start implementing those things and practicing those things and working through those things in real time, you really won't understand what you need to do to improve your leadership. You'll have a sense and you'll have some sort of guideposts, but is nothing like real world experience that will give you a clearer sense of how to improve yourself to be an effective leader. I can tell you in scenarios that I've been in personally and scenarios I've coached and counseled people in, it is not until things start to unfold and the uniqueness of the situation starts to reveal itself that you start to see the tweaks you need to make as a leader. So, for the sake of this scenario as an emerging leader, I'm going to put a 2 because I want to be honest with myself as an emerging leader. All right, let's go to C18, question 11. I understand what I need to do to make improvements I believe are important for my career success. Again, let's put a 2 here because until you start to enter into the role of the leader, until you start to enter into the leadership role you're preparing for, you really won't know the improvements you need to make that are important for your career success and your career track. I can tell you that some of you may be thinking, well, I have a friend or I know someone who's on the career track that I want to be on. Let me just make a quick comment here and say that while you see someone on the career track that you think you want to get on, one thing I would caution you about is the steps that person needed to take may be different than the steps you need to take to get on the same and maintain the same career track. The other thing I'll caution you about is you may decide not to pursue that career track once you get exposed to the basic elements of that career track that will lead to where you think you want to go. Many people have changed course because of what they've been exposed to. And so just leave room for that. And as an emerging leader who has not yet taken on a leadership role, you may not know the answer to this. However, for those of you who are listening to this tutorial and you are in your leadership role now, but you're preparing for the next one, you may have a different answer for this question, and that is completely fair. But just for the sake of this example, I want to focus on an emerging leader who hasn't yet taken on a leadership role. Let's go to C19, question 12. I recognize actions I can take to help improve my leadership competencies. Let's put a 3 here, and I'm taking into account that you've gotten some counsel from Mr. managers and supervisors, coaches and mentors. C20, question 13. I recognize how my behaviors may impact others. You know what? Let's put a 2 here because emerging leaders have yet to see that impact. Now, they may know that they may be influential in the office or in a team, but as a leader, it is difficult to realize the impact you make until you're in a leadership role. So until you get there, let's keep that as a low number. I'm at question 14 now. For you, though, for those of you who are following, I'm at C23, question 14. I have a good understanding of the needs of the people with whom I work. Let's say a 5. As I'm sure you may be talking with your coworkers quite often. I have a good understanding of how others perceive me at work. Let's say a 4. And the only reason why I hesitate with that one is because when you look at this question, you can interpret it as, oh yeah, my coworkers understand how I work, and they understand me as a worker. But does this take into account your supervisor and others who may be in a supervisory role, who may not supervise you but may observe your work or may look at you from a distance? How do those folks perceive you when they interact with you or when they observe work products that you produce? So you may not have a full scope of what people think of you at work, but just take into account that this may not just include your coworkers, but others who may be observing you. Question 16. I am interested in learning about the people with whom I work. Let's put that as a 7 because we all should want to pursue that. Let's move on to the self-management section. We're almost done here. C28, question 17. I handle criticism without becoming defensive. As an emerging leader, let's be optimistic and say a 5. Some may not handle it well, but others might. C18, I am calm under pressure. Let's be ambitious and say 6. I use personal failures as an opportunity for further growth and development. I'm going to put a 4 here. And hopefully you're honest about the answer you put here for question 19. Some emerging leaders don't handle failure well, and many that do may not use it as opportunity to improve their growth. Question 20, I manage stress well. Let's put a 5 there. Let's see, question 21, I typically see things in a positive way. Let's put a 4, be honest. This emerging leader may or may not see things as a positive all the time. Question 22. I try to see and understand things from others' perspective. Let me answer this as a 3. As a leader and as a leader of leaders, I believe you need to be secure in who you are, how you think, how you feel, what you believe, but also believe that you need to understand what others are seeing and experiencing and feeling and believing. And that understanding closes the gap between you and the next person you're working with, or the person you report to, or the person that you are supervising. Understanding other people's perspectives is critical to being effective as a leader. Without that understanding, you can't make the proper adjustments and look at what you can do to be better in your leadership. I can talk about that one for quite a while, but let's move on to question 23. I am a good listener. Let's say 7 because I listen to everybody at work. I wait to form judgments until I have all information needed. Let's say this emerging leader is honest, say I'm getting better, but I'm not quite there. Question 25. When I make a mistake, I am not afraid to say so. Let's say 4. Sometimes this emerging leader is honest about their mistakes, sometimes they're not. Question 26. I am able to relate well with peers in the workplace. Let's say 7. I have good working relationships with those who I supervise. Because this emerging leader doesn't supervise anyone, let's put a 1. And let's say question 28, I have good working relationships with those whom I report. Let's say 6. All right. So if you're following along, we completed column D. Now let's go ahead and complete column E. As a reminder, column E is designed to rate the importance of each item to my career. As an emerging leader, I've gotten feedback again from supervisors and counselors and mentors and people who are coaching me. So now, even though I've rated what my reality is in each of these items, I now have to figure out if each of these items are relevant to my career. And this is where I need to be thoughtful about my career. And as an emerging leader, I might not be totally sure of the relevance of these items to my career, but let's do our best to figure that out. So, as an emerging leader, I will be leading other people, planning, setting goals, and trying to be strategic in meeting goals of the organization. So then the first question I gotta ask myself is, I'm able to formulate good long-term career goals. The question is, and the way I want to interpret this is just my view as in according to this scenario. If I know I'm going to be promoted in a leadership role, and yet this particular item may not be important to my career, what am I going to rate this as? So, am I able to formulate a good long term career goal? I don't think this is important to my career relative to where I'm going. So, I'm going to put a 1. Now, this does not mean that I don't have other ambitions. However, I may, as the person taking the survey, say, it's irrelevant for me to have long term goals as I'm getting ready to take on my next leadership assignment because I want to be focused on that assignment and focus on that only. And from there, I will figure out what my next steps will be. There are some people who may say, I know what my next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps will be in my career. Therefore, this is going to be a high number for me. But I just, for this scenario, let's put a 1. I'm able to analyze my personal knowledge proficiency. I think that's important in my career, especially in my next assignment. Let's put a 6. Question 3, I'm able to analyze my personal skill proficiency. Let's put a 6. I take actions to address self-identify areas of strength and weaknesses. Because I'm an emerging leader, I'm going to put a 5 because I may not know the full scope of that. Question 5, I'm able to formulate goals that meet the SMART criteria to help me address areas of weakness or strength. Let's put a 5 again. I monitor critically, analyze, and record my progress in taking actions and achieve goals. I think that's going to be important, so let's put a 5. I'm not quite sure. I seek timely support and feedback from others to help track my progress and achieve my goals. I'm going to put a 7 because I think I want feedback from my bosses and my supervisors along the way. All right. I know my areas of personal strength in the workplace. I think that's a 6 because I want to be able to help my team. I understand how to leverage my strengths to achieve success. I think that's a 4 because my strengths may not impact my team. Now, you may say that as an emerging leader. I get it. For those of you who are already in the leadership role, but you're looking at the next level or next phase of your career, you may have a higher number. Question 10. I know the things I need to improve to be an effective leader. I think I need to know that in my leadership role coming up. I understand what I need to do to make improvements I believe are important for my career success. Again, because I answered question 1 low, I'm going to answer this as low because career success and leadership success are different to me as an emerging leader. Again, this is a scenario for those of you who are currently in an assignment. You may rate this higher, and I totally get it. Question 12, I recognize actions I can take to help improve my leadership competencies. Yeah, I want to put that as high. I recognize how my behaviors may impact others. I think that's a 5 because as an emerging leader, I may not know that. However, I may have to get a different answer once I learn the assignment that's coming up. Question 14. I have a good understanding of the needs of the people with whom I work. I think that's good, so I put a 6. I have a good understanding of how others perceive me at work. I want that to be a 7. I'm interested in learning about the people with whom I work. Um, some of you may not care about this, but you probably, I guess, one of the things I advise leaders, emerging leaders, on is to get to know the people that you're working with, and not just their likes, their dislikes, how many kids and dogs they have, and what their hobbies are, but really how get to know them from a work habit perspective and how they respond to certain prompts when it comes to performance. So I think that's a 7 as an emerging leader. We're on question 17. I handle criticism without being defensive. I think that's going to be important because I may get criticized for things I did and didn't do under my leadership. I'm assuming this is going to happen as an emerging leader. I am calm under pressure. I think that's important. I use personal failures as opportunity for future growth. I think that's important. I manage stress well. I think it's going to be important. I typically see things in a positive way. I think that's going to be important, but maybe I need to be honest and see things negatively because I may be a glass half full versus a glass half empty type guy. So let's put a 5 because right now that's how I feel about it. I typically see things in a positive way. I think that's going to be important. However, again, I may see the glasses half empty, so let's put a 5 here. I am on question 23. I'm a good listener. I think that's going to be important. I want to form judgments. Wait to form judgments until I have all the needed information. That's probably going to be important to me. Let's put a 7 there. When I make a mistake, I'm not afraid to say so. Let's put a 6 there. I'm on question 26, almost done. I am able to relate well with peers in the workplace. Because I'm going to emerge into a leadership role and my peers will become other supervisors, I think I probably should get to know them and work well with them. I have good working relationships with those I supervise. That's going to be super important. I have working relationship with those to whom I report. That's going to be super important. So we have completed column D and E for section 1. This is an example of how to do that. Now, I do want to help you figure out how to interpret the results. So, really quickly, a large negative number is indicative of an item where current proficiency is low, but it's important to my career. And so I might want to pay attention to that. Again, if you see a large negative number, it means that I may not be as competent or as good as I need to be because it's important to my career. The flip side is a large positive gap or a large positive number indicates a high proficiency in a particular item, but it may not be equally important to my career. And so I may not want to choose this as an item to add to my leadership development plan. So, with those directions, and again, all the directions I'm reading can be found in line 1 and line 3, as well as in the learn.umUC.edu portal. But for the sake of this assignment, I want to look at the largest negative gaps in section 1 to draw my attention to. So, the largest number I see on the scale right now is line 40. So, just for this tutorial, I just want to highlight it because I may come back to it. So, for those of you who will be completing, actually all of you will be completing all 3 sections here, you want to highlight those items that are getting your attention. And this is not a preference thing. You want to go by the data. So the largest number I see here is a 6. The next largest number I see here is a negative 5. Excuse me. The largest number I see is negative 6. Line 40. The next number I see here is a negative 5. And I want to highlight that just to jog my memory. And I see as a next large number here, I got a negative 4. That's a gap, so I'm going to highlight that. And everything else, I see a negative 3 here on line 35. I see a negative 3 on line 30. I got a couple of negative 3s, but I think for this section, I got 3 large numbers. And the reason why I'm not going to focus on the negative 3s is because this is just section 1. For your leadership development plan, you're going to only pick 4 things that you need to develop. Since you have 3 large numbers in section 1, you're likely going to experience large negative numbers in sections 2, 3, and 4. So you will have more than enough to choose from before you transfer your items over to the leadership development plan. So I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but I do want to just talk about what this means. When you look at the largest number, negative number you have, at least on this assessment scenario, we're looking at line 40, question 27. I have good work relationships with those I supervise. Clearly, when this particular student took this assessment, at the time that he took this assessment, they were not in a leadership role. See, they don't supervise anyone. They may have worked in some work groups, but that's not true supervision, right? Supervision is when you are assigned to overlook and oversee the work of other people. And so that's clearly going to be a low number in terms of where you are now in your career. However, if you're getting ready for a promotion, you know that you're going to be assigned to manage and supervise and oversee a group of people, and their work products will come under your purview. That's a high number, right? And so this, in this scenario, the student said, this is going to be really important to my career. And so the gap is clearly going to be a -6. So as you develop your leadership and you say to yourself, hey, I need to get better and I want to make sure I'm focusing on these things and I want to see this on my leadership development plan, I'm going to pick that one, right? I want to make sure that I select the item that's going to be really important to me developing. And as you go and work on your leadership development plan, which we'll cover in another tutorial, you'll see why it's important to pick the right item here. Let's look at the next one. Question 10. I know the things I need to improve to be an effective leader. Again, that's a -5, right? You started out saying, I think I know the answer. And this is why it's important to be honest with yourself when you're doing column D, because you need to understand where you're truly missing opportunity. So you may say, I really don't know. I mean, I have an idea of what people have told me, but I don't know personally. But I know it's important to my career to know the things I need to improve at to be an effective leader. I may want to choose that as one of my items on my LDP, my leadership development plan, which is a great item to choose. How do you learn this stuff? And one of the things, just to kind of give you a sneak peek, if you decide to choose question 10 and you're an emerging leader and you're not yet in your leadership role, the question is, how do I develop that leadership responsibility? Well, one of the things I've seen people do, and I've done this too throughout my career, is when I don't have a formal leadership role at my place of employment, I volunteer at specific organizations to take on leadership roles and to practice what it means to be a leader. Some instances that may show up as being a member of a board of directors at a nonprofit, or being a volunteer manager for an event or for a department during your off hours. That example is an opportunity to get better at your leadership, because you'll have responsibility over people, you'll have responsibility over action plans, you'll have responsibility maybe over a budget, and it gives you a chance to learn for free. That those opportunities are so priceless on a board of directors. If you're able to join one, you're able to observe how decisions are made, how other leaders are making decisions, and how you influence decisions at that organization by being a member of the board. So that's just an opportunity that could pop up. And let's look at number 12. I recognize actions I can take to help improve my leadership competencies. Again, this is similar to question 10, but you may say, I don't know. I need to figure out how to identify the actions I need to take so that I can make tweaks and adjustments to my leadership. You can learn this by volunteering if you are not at a formal leadership role. For those of you who are currently in a leadership role, but you're looking to go to the next phase of your leadership, there are specific scenarios, specific steps you can take to grow in your leadership, to be an effective leader, and to improve your leadership competencies. One example is to have people give you honest feedback at all times. You will always need someone to speak into your career, into your leadership, and tell you the truth unfiltered, especially in scenarios where you know it's a little dicey or you may not be sure. Always seeking feedback from someone who's present and who's not afraid to tell you the truth, and who you're not afraid to hear the truth from. That's just one quick example I can think of that can help you improve your leadership. And there's so many more things you can go through. Just to close, put a button on this and to give you some additional thoughts here. As you complete this assignment, you'll have a number of skill gaps to choose from to put into your LDP. You may find some really fascinating items here that you said, man, I didn't know I had this gap, or man, I've been thinking about this gap for a while, and now this is the time during MBA 610 to address this gap. And I hope you identify those gaps. But if you have multiple skills gap to choose from, and you're trying to choose which ones to enter into your leadership development plan, which is a great problem to have, here are a few questions I just want to point out. And just to be clear, let's assume you have a number of -6s like you see in F40, or a number of -5s like you see in F17. That is question 10 and question 27. Let's assume you have a number of these littered throughout the document. Please do not feel bad. It's a good thing. And you need to figure out which ones to choose from, because you have about 10 or 15 or maybe 20 to choose from. Here are a couple of questions that may be helpful to you as you figure out what's next. Here's question 1. Where are you now in your career? Where are you now in your career? Here's the next question. Where do you want to go in your career? Where do you want to go in your career? Question 3. How do you get to your career goals? How do you get to your career goals? Question 4. What steps do you need to take to get to your career goals? What steps do you need to take to get to your career goals? Which skill gaps in this tool help you address those steps you need to take to reach your goal? Which elements in this skill gaps tool will help you address those steps you need to take to reach your goal? I hope this tutorial was helpful. I look forward to reading them and looking at the results and looking at your analysis along the way. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. I'll be available to help you into answering those questions. Thank you and good luck, guys. I look forward to reading your assignments.